stop slipping and stop cutting your socks. We have 15 different color options between 3 grip socks and 2 sleeve types. Something for everybody at a price that just makes sense. Available now at puregripsocks.com. Is the pod coming back with Jay? Maybe. Hello and welcome to the November edition of my Q&A series, your football boot related questions and my answers to them, where if you have a question that you'd like me to answer in next month's episode, please leave it down in the comment section. This series does not work without your participation, so your questions are greatly appreciated. And as always, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video, and if you appreciate the unsugar-coated, unsponsored, brutally honest opinions on this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2025. Of each existing Nike silo, which version of each would you ideally want in the lineup, and which shelved silo would you like to add/replace permanently in the lineup? So basically you want me to make a Nike football boots all-star team. I can do that. Where if we start with Nike's 3 current silos, Nike Tiempo Legend 10, get that out of here. My heart tells me to go for the Tiempo Legend 5 just because it is one of my personal favorite football boots of all time. But I think that there are 2 in particular that could realistically take the spot for the Tiempo, and that is either the OG Air Tiempo Legend 1 or honestly the one that was most recently replaced in the Nike Tiempo Legend 9. Both of those would be great choices, but because these are my picks and my all-star team, I'm picking the Legend 5. For the Mercs, 1 Superfly and 1 Vapor, both of which of course are going to be different. For the Mercurial, again, maybe not the most popular choice, but I really like this one. Mercurial Vapor 10. I think it's just one of the more underrated boots and definitely a great example of a lightweight Tajin synthetic, super responsive pair of speed boots. And then for Superfly, I'm tempted to say Mercurial Superfly 7 Elite. I just think that version of the Flyknit upper, reinforced by the high tenacity yarns, the overall styling of the boot, the anatomic sole plate without the air zoom, the super aggressive traction, that was a really good mid-cut Flyknit Superfly. And then as for the Phantom line, I will admit, again, kind of an unpopular opinion, I really do like the current Phantom 6. But if we're picking an all-star of Nike Phantom models, we're probably going to go all the way back to, let's be honest, the OG Hypervenom Phantom 1. It's just an all-timer. And then once upon a time, Nike did have 4 silos, meaning that I'm not really going to take anything away, but I am going to add one in. For me, I have to add a T90 back into the Nike lineup. And while I do really like the T90 Laser 2, I do think the most special of the bunch, and one that still holds up quite well today, would actually be the T90 Laser 1. In summary, Laser 1, Superfly 7, Vapor 10, Legend 5, Hypervenom Phantom 1. That would be my ideal Nike lineup. Today at least, because I could probably change my mind on most of them tomorrow. I don't understand this hypocrisy. How is calf leather less wrong than a kangaroo leather? To give some context, in the last Q&A video, I was talking about kangaroo leather being banned in certain places and just the general shift away from kangaroo leather in the entire football boot industry, with many brands either opting to go full synthetic or instead of using kangaroo leather, they go for a calf leather material instead. We're not to share too many opinions as to whether or not leather is right or wrong, but this comment is 100% valid. If kangaroo leather is viewed as this horrible thing, then technically calf leather should be viewed exactly the same way. Where as much as I love natural leather and especially kangaroo leather football boots, I totally agree. If you're going to ban one kind, why not just ban them all? Or if you're going to not use one kind of leather, how does using a different kind make it any better? Where let's not beat around the bush, you have a brand like Nike that has pretty well phased out kangaroo leather and almost phased out natural leather entirely, at least as it relates to football boot. The one remaining calf leather option being the Premier 3, which was formerly kangaroo leather, but at the same time, while they're standing against natural leather materials on their football boots, they're perfectly happy to make natural leather retro Jordans and a bunch of other sneakers. Where Adidas, on the other hand, again goes away from kangaroo leather in favor of calf leather, even changing over the Copa Mundial at this point. Yes, when you spend $180 on a made in Germany Copa, it is no longer made from kangaroo leather, and all in the name of what? Following the rules, doing what's right. Are they really doing what's right, or are they just pretending? I don't know. To me, I just find it all a little silly, and what I really want at the end of the day is the best possible quality from these brands, and I really feel like they're using this kangaroo leather ban as an excuse to, in most cases, make inferior quality products but charge just as much, if not more. And that sucks. Can you bring back car problems, please? Never say never, but probably not. I know that if you play on AG with FG boots, you lose your warranty, but if you play on FG with AG boots, is it the same thing? Also, the situation that really puzzles me is about the use of SG boots on AG. For instance, Adidas is selling plastic TPU replacement studs that are way shorter than the metallic ones that allow you to play on AG with SG boots. In that situation, do you lose your warranty like if they were FG boots? There's a couple questions in there, but we're gonna get to all of them. Starting with, if you wear your AG boots on FG, will you lose your warranty? I have personally never seen that be the case, so I can only assume that it's probably not an issue. But of course, that is ultimately going to be at the discretion of the warranty department when you go and make a claim. However, my logic would be that an AG boot is supposed to be better suited for artificial grass, which is a far more abrasive and harder on your football boots playing surface than any natural grass would be. So I don't think it should affect your warranty, and like I said, I've never heard of an instance of somebody having a warranty claim denied. And also, unlike when you wear FG boots on artificial grass, which we've all done, but you probably shouldn't do, artificial grass stains your football boots. Natural grass really doesn't. So even if you have been wearing your AG boots on natural grass and something goes wrong where you need to send them in for warranty, give them a clean before you send them in, and you should be totally fine. As for Adidas selling plastic screw-in studs to replace the metal ones on their soft ground boots, that's one of those situations kind of like mid-cut boots providing ankle support, where more or less people have kind of invented their own reality. Where I believe the reason why Adidas sells those replacement plastic studs is in the event that you need soft ground boots for the sake of traction, but you play in a league that does not allow studs with a metal or aluminum tip, you can swap out the metal ones for plastic ones and still have that longer soft ground stud length, but of course have a pair of boots that you can legally wear in your match. Where yes, I suppose in some cases the plastic replacements are going to be a little bit shorter than the metal ones, but as a whole, the screw-in stud length in general is still going to be longer than that of a standard FG boot. And I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's some official documentation from Adidas out there stating that the intention is different, but I really don't think that what they wanted people to do was to buy these plastic replacement studs for their soft ground boots so they could wear them on artificial grass. And not only because of the length of the studs and the instability that comes along with that, potential stud pressure issues as well, but also they're screw-in studs, and artificial grass is a very clingy, abrasive surface, so as you're running and twisting and pivoting, it's very likely that you're going to loosen those studs and lose them somewhere on the pitch. Not to mention the crazy impact that's going to be placed on those screw-in positions, especially if it comes a little bit loose. You're going to strip those studs and basically ruin the boots entirely. Where I guess, long story short, you should not be wearing any soft ground boots on artificial grass, regardless of whether or not you swap out the studs. And in the event that you did choose to do that, even with the replacement plastic studs, and something were to go wrong, I have to imagine if there's visible wear and or signs from use on artificial grass, I would think, or at least expect, Adidas to deny your warranty claim. Do you think there should be another stud pattern to add to the ones we generally find from brands? And if you had to come out with your own idea of a new sole plate and stud pattern, what would it be? If we look at what's available right now, you have FG as firm ground, SG as soft ground, AG for artificial grass, technically HG, which stands for hard ground, typically more so available in Asian markets, and then you have indoor and turf as your non-studded options. Where as much as I'd love to stand here and tell you that I have this great idea for a new stud pattern, I really do think that between those 6 options, pretty much all of the bases are covered for the currently available playing surfaces that this game is regularly played on. Where I guess unless someone invents a new playing surface that requires a very different stud pattern, we probably don't need anything more than what we currently have, or at least I don't think there's anything new that can come out that's going to make that much of a difference. And then also to look at it from a business perspective, using AG stud patterns as more or less the perfect example, artificial grass has been around for a very long time now, but it's maybe only in the last couple of years where AG stud patterns have at the very least become more readily available. I think availability still isn't where it should be, but this has a lot to do with the stores that are just used to carrying exclusively FG stud patterns, which there's still a huge demand for because there's plenty of people that still play on natural grass. But if they're going to carry all the FG boots and people want AG, they now have to carry all the AG boots. And if you're talking about just 3 lines from Nike as an example, that's double the boots for one brand. And from an infrastructure standpoint, just in terms of paying for your stock and storing all of that inventory and then also hoping that it all sells, it's not exactly feasible for all of these stores to do. Which is the main reason why your AG and alternate stud pattern options tend to only be available from the biggest retailers. They're the only ones that can actually afford to carry it all. In other words, we probably don't need anything new, and even if something new were to come out, it would take a very, very long time until it legitimately became a readily available thing. Although I will say, I always thought the idea of the Sense studs on the Superfly 2 and 3 was a really neat idea. Not that it worked well on those football boots, but if someone could create a stud pattern where the studs could legitimately extend and retract based on the playing surface as you're actually using the boots in real time, how cool would that be? And if that ever does come out, you heard it here first. Do you think Mizuno should have gone a bit crazier with the innovation pack? I think it's really easy to just say, yeah, we would have loved to have seen some crazy technology from Mizuno for the innovation pack, but at the same time, it's also really hard to fault pretty well everything that they put out. It was all top notch, and despite being different from the standard models, had a really impressive level of refinement that we've kind of come to expect from Made in Japan Mizuno. At the same time, Mizuno is a brand that definitely has these crazy technologies within the company. If you look at their running shoes as an example, they've done some pretty wild stuff over the years, and we've just never seen that translate into their football boots over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, let's say. They've kept it relatively simple, and other than taking some risks with the Mizuno Alpha, which at this point I would say has gone over incredibly well, even though they're not necessarily for the die-hard kangaroo leather only Made in Japan Mizuno fan base, they are at the end of the day, a brand that is very dedicated to staying in their lane and making products for the niche audience that they know they have. Where I think when you're talking about innovation specifically, this is where a lot of brands do often get it wrong, where they try to do something new and interesting and never been done before, and sometimes it just doesn't go off well, and it can change the trajectory of the entire company just based on one failed concept. Could Mizuno Soleplate swap a bunch of different football boots and pair it up with a kangaroo leather Morelia upper and have it sell well?
Absolutely. But going too far beyond that, I think they view it at this point as too big of a risk, because sometimes it only takes one mistake to ruin a brand's reputation. Not to say that Mizuno as a brand isn't innovative, because that's completely untrue. They just choose to innovate at their own speed, which I think is what I really admire about them.